How's it going, everyone? This is the George here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Captain America: Brave New Worlds. This is the fourth Captain America movie, this time directed by Julius Onha. This is also the first of three MCU movies to come out in 2025. This movie was supposed to come out last year, but due to reshoots, the various strikes, the movie got postponed. It stars Anthony Mackie, Harrison Ford, Danny Ramirez, and Tim Blake Nelson. And in this movie, we see the working relationship between President Thaddeus Ross and Sam Wilson. And Sam Wilson's working to uncover some conspiracy that involves Thaddeus Ross. And while this movie is a sequel to the Avenger movies and the Captain America movies, this is also a sequel to the Incredible Hulk. Glad that movie's finally getting more recognition after so many years, because that movie was kind of like the forgotten MCU movie for a while, and also is addressing the celestial head that's sticking out of the Indian Ocean since Eternals, which came out almost 4 years ago. So, with Captain America Brave New World, this is the first movie that Sam Wilson, as Captain America, is leading. We saw him finally embrace the role in Falcon and Winter Soldier, which came out 4 years ago. So, it's been a while since we've seen this character. It's been a while since we've seen Captain America, any version of Captain America, on the big screen. And MCU has been very up and down post Endgame. This movie went through rumored reshoots. At one point, characters that were supposed to be in the movie were taken out of the movie. And it is noticeable in this movie. Some of the shots, some of the close up camera work shots, you can tell what's green screen, what felt reshot. I'm pretty sure Giancarlo Esposito's character, Sidewinder, was a character that was added through the reshoots. Um, this movie's getting a lot of mixed reviews. In fact, it's got around the 50s on Rotten Tomatoes. It's considered one of the worst MCU movies score wise. But I went into this movie thinking, you know what, let's see what this movie is all about. I did enjoy the trailers. I enjoy the political thriller aspect that was being shown. I'm curious to see what Harrison Ford would do as Thaddeus Ross, since the previous actor unfortunately passed away a few years ago. And with this movie, I'll say that this movie, it's not the worst MCU movie. It's definitely not the worst post Endgame. In fact, there were a few that came out before Endgame that I would say aren't as good, or at least enjoyable for me, as this movie. But this is the definition of a mixed bag MCU movie. I say that because there's things that I like in this movie, things that do take me back to pre-Endgame MCU, that, like, you can tell they're trying to recapture that magic, what people enjoyed about the MCU before this up and down roller coaster that it's been on. And then there's some aspects that remind you why some MCU movies post Endgame, not all of them, but some of them have been messy, why people just don't enjoy them as much as they used to. And maybe the reshoots played a role in that. Maybe they were reshooting stuff because they were trying to get that traction back. I honestly don't know what's behind that, other than maybe the test screenings just didn't do a really good job. But yeah, I did enjoy this movie more than I was expecting. Now, I wasn't going into this movie expecting to dislike Sam Wilson, well, as Captain America, because I like the character Sam Wilson, and I think Anthony Mackie did a very good job what he was given. Yeah, he's going to get compared to Chris Evans as Steve Rogers, who is phenomenal. But with what Anthony Mackie was given, I think he did a pretty good job. I like his version of Captain America. I like the character Sam Wilson, and I like the dynamic between him and President Ross in this movie. And I'll say Harrison Ford did a really good job of portraying this character. It's the first time he's portrayed this character that's been in the MCU since 2008 and has made a few appearances in the years since. But I would say, like, as far as like the MCU goes, after the Incredible Hulk, this is probably the best characterization of Ross, because yeah, you see him in Civil War, you see him in Infinity War briefly, and Black Widow briefly. He appears in the background of Tony Stark's funeral in Avengers Endgame. But here we really get to go deeper into him and how, despite the mistakes he made, despite the corrupt stuff he's done, he's trying to do better. and the dynamic between him and Sam Wilson trying to make things work as the president and Captain America after the events of Civil War, where I really enjoyed that. And I like that even though Liv Taylor is, sorry if I mispronounced the last name, she's in the movie briefly. We knew she was going to be in the movie, but the relationship between him and his daughter Betty, first of all, I like that the character Betty Ross is finally back in the MCU since not being in it since Incredible Hulk. In fact, I don't recall her really being mentioned in any of the MCU movies since Incredible Hulk. So I'm glad that they're finally acknowledging his daughter in the movie because she was also the love interest of Bruce Banner. And that was back when Edward Norton was playing the character. But I really enjoyed that heart that was given with Ross. And yeah, people are going to talk about the Red Hulk stuff. I mean, the Red Hulk stuff looks cool. The fight sequence is a lot shorter than what was shown in the trailers. So don't expect a whole lot with that. But the Red Hulk stuff looks cool. And it's just a reminder that, man, the MCU needs to do more with the Hulk character. By the way, I want to address that real quick. This is a Captain America movie with Hulk characters in it, not just Thaddeus Ross and Betty Ross, but Samuel Stearns is also in this movie. Again, another character that hasn't appeared in the MCU since the Incredible Hulk. Tim Blake Nelson returns. Didn't like his design, but it's interesting to see his character be revisited again because again it's been a while, and it does answer some of the questions that we've had since the Incredible Hulk. I will say this: the movie did answer certain questions that have been left unanswered, whether it was acknowledging the celestial head from the events of Eternals. I think only She-Hulk has addressed it, where in a newspaper article it was shown in a newspaper article. I think that's what it was. Got to revisit that. But also what happened with this character since the events of the Incredible Hulk. I'm glad they brought up, the stuff that happened in Harlem in the Incredible Hulk. Because I remember like when Civil War first came out, when there were memes addressing that, when Ross is grilling the Avengers for the destruction of New York and Washington and Sokovia, and like someone like pulls a how it should have ended kind of meme where one of the Avengers asks, well, what about what happened in Harlem with the Abomination? So I'm glad like they're acknowledging these events because, in my opinion, I think The Incredible Hulk's an underrated movie. The new Falcon, played by Dana Ramirez, starts off annoying, but the character grows on me as the film goes on. Usually, a character like that, when they're first introduced and they start off annoying, they get worse as the movie progresses. But luckily, this character didn't. Isaiah Bradley in this movie, I thought he was handled very well. Carl Lumbly did a very good job. And by the way, speaking of Isaiah Bradley, with the exception of Isaiah Bradley being introduced in Falcon and Winter Soldier, this movie does a good job of having it where if you didn't watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, because I know some people that watch the movies don't watch the shows, but the exception may be being confused as to the background of Isaiah Bradley, which is summed up earlier in the movie, you're not going to feel lost going into this movie unless you didn't see Eternals or forgot the Incredible Hulk or didn't realize the Incredible Hulk is an MCU movie. And yeah, I got to address that again. When are we going to have a Bruce Banner, Thunderbolt Ross scene together? Like, come on. Again, this is a Hulk movie with no Hulk, or a Captain America movie with Hulk characters. As far as the plot goes, it does feel like the plot is all over the place. Like there's good plot ideas I like in this movie, like an arms race to the adamantium. We're trying to get this peace treaty done with Japan about the adamantium that's coming out of the celestial head. This conspiracy involving Ross answering some of these unanswered questions, but it's like they're all jumbled up. And for a movie that's 2 hours, well, not like a little less than 2 hours, I feel like they kind of rushed stuff. I don't know if there was going to be more details in the original plot of this movie, because again, this was a movie that was reshot. It feels like there's some characters in this movie that it's not that they're given terrible performances by the actors. I think acting wise, the movie's fine acting wise, but it's like, why was that character in this movie? It feels like that could have been any other character, or The movie wouldn't have felt different if that character wasn't in there. For example, this character Ruth, she's Sabra in the comics. She's in the movie, and I didn't dislike her character, but it kind of felt like her character was kind of there just to fill in the void that Natasha Romanoff filled in Winter Soldier in Civil War. I don't know, that's just how I felt. In fact, there's plenty of things that feel like they're pulled from Winter Soldier, just done differently. But it kind of felt like the beginning they were going from an original political thriller, and then was like, let's go back to the drawing board and try to recapture a plot of Winter Soldier, but instead include Hulk characters. That's how it felt to me. But also the character Sidewinder, played by Giancarlo Esposito. Love Giancarlo Esposito. He was good in this movie, but the character, if anything, it felt like they hyped the character up too much in the trailers, and he's really not much in there. Just to really be a physical threat to Sam Wilson as far as members of the Serpent Society goes. And yeah, it kind of felt like they were just thrown in there because the MCU wanted to include them in there since Civil War, and I don't know, it felt like they were supposed to play a bigger role, but just really didn't. Action was fine. Beginning though felt very slow. I'm not gonna spoil it, but there's this one sequence. It was a clip that was shown before the movie came out, and it takes place at the beginning of the movie where the action just doesn't look right to me. But luckily, the second half of the movie, the action gets a lot better, particularly the aerial sequences and the Red Hulk versus Sam Wilson fight. So with this movie, again, overall, I enjoyed this movie, but this is the definition of mixed bag MCU, where it's making the mistakes that were made post Endgame while at the same time trying to bring back the things that we enjoyed from the early phases. And I like, again, that they've addressed stuff that we've had questions about since the Incredible Hulk. That they, acknowledge the Celestial Head. But I feel like there's still more questions that need to be answered. One of the things that, Ross wants Sam Wilson to do is, reestablish the Avengers. Do I think Sam Wilson can lead the Avengers? Yeah, I think he can. Again, Sam Wilson's not the problem in this movie. Anthony Mackie's not the problem. Again, the acting's fine. The characters are fine. It's just the plot could have been better. And some of the green screen in the movie is noticeable. Some of the camera work makes it noticeable that a scene was a reshoot. But this doesn't make me worried about Thunderbolts or Fantastic Four. Yet I'm still looking forward to those movies. And honestly, I don't consider this top 5 worst MCU. I mean, I'll list some of the MCU movies that I did enjoy more than this movie. Even though when I reviewed those movies, I might have given them higher grades, but looking back and rewatching them, yeah, those movies had a lot of mistakes. I do feel like this movie, at least for me, was more enjoyable than Thor: Love and Thunder, Eternals, The Marvels, Captain Marvel, Thor: The Dark World, Iron Man 2, Black Widow, Quantumanium. I think that's it. Kind of up there with Ant-Man and the Wasp, where, there's things I really enjoy, but there's some things that just, for the runtime, it feels like too much. So overall, with Captain America: Brave New World, I'm really torn with my grade on this. B plus, not B plus, B minus, or C plus. As of right now, I'll give it a C plus, just because I think the plot did feel all over the place at times. But yeah, this movie is not the worst MCU movie. This is better than some of the other MCU movies we've gotten. Way better than some of the other comic book movies we've gotten in recent years. Well, not recent years, but like in many years past. I mean, this is way better than any of the Sony movies. But as far as the Captain America movies go, it's not up there with First Avenger, Winter Soldier, and Civil War. But I do hope Anthony Mackie gets more chances to play Sam Wilson in the MCU because I like him in this role. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of him and hopefully Doomsday and Secret Wars. He says he wants to play the character for at least 10 more years. So here's hoping that Marvel gives him more chances and maybe just give him better script and director. But yeah, Captain America Brave New World. Have you seen it? What'd you think about it? And what MCU movie are you looking forward to in the next couple of years, this year and the next couple of years? For me, it's Doomsday, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man 4, and Secret Wars. Although I'm also looking forward to Thunderbolts. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below. And I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe already if you haven't. Please share this with someone that enjoys the MCU, that likes Captain America movies. And I hope to see you guys real soon. Take care, everyone.